The playoffs are right around the corner, and we have tons of teams that want to win the championship this year. But to win a championship, you must be great, and there's always going to be problems along the way. So I'm going to talk about one problem with every playoff team. The first team I'm going to talk about is the Los Angeles Lakers. And the problem I have with them is they have a really low seed. And coming out of the first round will be difficult when they have to play someone like Minnesota, Denver, or even Oklahoma City Thunder. And this is when it gets hard for the team to push through multiple grueling playoff series. And I just don't think the Lakers have enough manpower to beat these teams on a competitive basis. I don't even think they would be favourites if they were a number 3 or 4 seed. So they're going to have to push hard. They're going to need a consistent Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and most importantly, a consistent third option. That could be D'Angelo Russell or Austin Reeves. And one of them's got to show up big in the playoffs, and they're going to have to prove themselves. D'Angelo Russell could do it in the regular season, but we've never seen him do it in the playoffs. Then you've got the Kings. I just don't think they have enough firepower under their belt. They've got 2 great offensive players in Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, but they just don't have that playoff mentality yet. They were good against the Warriors, but I just don't think they have that true leader. De'Aaron Fox is still young. Domantas Sabonis hasn't been leading their team, and they are turnover prone. Yes, they have Harrison Barnes, who has tons of experience, but I just don't think they have enough players to step up in those big games, and we saw that in Game 7 when they played Curry. Curry torched them for 50, and nobody could be seen, and they just fell apart in that Game 7. That's why I don't have much faith on them going in deep into the playoffs yet. Then you've got the Pelicans. They're a great team on paper, but they're a very inconsistent team. Their star player in Zion Williamson has been extremely inconsistent with injuries, and even when he has been healthy throughout the regular season, you can't always count on him for wins. Brandon Ingram hasn't shown up as a big player so far this season. Jonas Valanciunas isn't the big center you want. They could win a few games, but I just think they're a bit inconsistent. They need that one star player who will show up every playoff game to win and drop a 40-30 point game. Yes, Zion and Brandon Ingram can be that, but will they be that on a consistent basis? Then you have the Suns. They're a great team on paper. They've got 3 amazing scorers. But is that what you want? You've got 3 amazing scorers that can outscore, but do you need that? A good team like the Nuggets or the Bucks or the Raptors had good role players surrounding their star. They've got 3 stars who all want to score 30 on a nightly basis, and I just don't think this works in the playoffs. We saw earlier the Phoenix Suns struggled to beat a well-rounded team like the Nuggets. And when you've got 3 great ISO scorers, only one of them can ISO. I talked about this in another video. You should go watch it if you want to know more about this. I just don't believe in them personally. But obviously, any team with Kevin Durant can prove you wrong because he's one of the best scorers. They have a chance, but I just don't believe in them personally. Then you've got the Dallas Mavericks, and they fall under the same category a lot of Western Conference's teams do. Do they beat the Nuggets in a 7-game series? And my answer is no. They've got great players. Luka can win a game by himself whenever he steps on the floor, but will he? He's got 7 games against a good defensive team in the Nuggets, and I just don't think they will be able to pull it off. They've got the pieces, but I just think the Nuggets are a better team, and this is why it's going to be so hard for a lot of Western Conference teams. The Nuggets have run back almost a very similar roster that worked so well in the playoffs, and we've seen that. And that's why you just have to side with a team like the Nuggets, because we've seen playoff consistency from them. Then you have the Clippers, an amazing team. You've got 2 great defenders in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard in your big 3. You've got a great playmaker in James Harden. You just have to think through, will this team stay consistent? We have 3 of the most inconsistent playoff performers we have seen. And the problem is they have to be consistent to win a title. And we just haven't seen it before. Obviously, Kawhi won it the year with the Raptors, and that was his most consistent year. But if they all line up and the stars align for them, they're one of the best teams out west. Without injuries, I think they've got a solid chance. But if they are struggling with injuries, which is common around these three players, they will struggle when it comes playoff time. The problem I have with the Oklahoma City Thunder is that they're really young. They've got an entire team based around young players. And as we've seen, it's not as consistent as you would like in playoffs. When it comes playoff time and when it comes down to the nitty-gritty and consistencies of the playoffs, do we see them show up? Possibly, yes. I could believe that this team goes deep in the playoffs. They've got so many talented players around SGA, and you've also got Chet Holmgren, two Jalen Williamses, and Josh Giddey. You've got great players, but yet again, seeing young teams succeed in playoffs is a rare sight. And if this happens, they're going to be the youngest team to win a championship. Then you have the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're an amazing team. They've been great in the regular season. Ant is amazing and has proven that he's really good in the playoffs. But is the rest of his team consistent and mature? When we saw Cat dropping threes against the Hornets, they ended up just passing it to him repetitively and they lost the game. And that's a game you really don't want to lose as a Minnesota team against Charlotte Hornets, one of the worst teams in the league, and you can blame it on the fact that they were just letting Karl Anthony Towns shoot, and they were all bad shots, and that's the reason they lost. They need maturity in the playoffs. Obviously, they're not going to do that, but it's just a bad sign. Is Karl Anthony Towns consistent in the playoffs? We haven't seen it yet. And if we're relying on just Anthony Edwards to be your primary scorer, you've got some problems when it comes to 7 consistent games and beating really good teams like Denver, the Clippers, or if they make it to the finals, someone like the Bucks or the Boston Celtics. And I just don't think this team has it. If Karl Anthony Towns is amazing in the playoffs, you've got an amazing defender in Rudy Gobert, 2 great scorers, and then you probably have a contender. But I just need to see it before I believe in it. And then finally, you have the Nuggets, an amazing team, the team that are the reigning champion, and they've got one of the best team offenses we've seen in a while. What could be wrong with them? I'll tell you what's wrong, is Jamal Murray is injury prone, and if that happens, I just say their title hopes are done. I love this team, and they're still really talented without Jamal Murray, but that is the centerpiece. He was the one who was making big shots in big games for them. Yes, Jokic is good, but Jamal Murray was one of the biggest parts of the reason why they won the championship last year, and I just don't think they can do it without him. It's looking good, but if he gets injured, that could be a really big problem, and I really hope he doesn't. This is an amazing team to watch. I'd love to see them go deep in the playoffs yet again. Now moving on to the Eastern Conference, we're starting off with the Philadelphia 76ers. And my problem is the 8th seed won't work for them. They're going to have to play Boston or Milwaukee in the first round. That's the best option, is Milwaukee for them. And that just won't work. Joel Embiid is good, but coming off an injury 10 games before the playoffs, winning a play-in, then having to play one of the hardest teams out east is not a good comeback schedule for him. If he wants to perform and he wants them to get past, he's going to have to put up MVP numbers like he was before the injury, or even better, because these are good teams and we've seen him fail against these teams. So if he's going to get past the playoffs, he's going to have to go insane, along with Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris. Just all the stars have to align for them to get past this tough series. And now you have the Heat. Obviously, they're in a low position, but anything can happen with playoff Jimmy. They're going to have to play Philadelphia most likely in the play-in spot for the 7th seed. Then they're going to have to face their rivals in the Milwaukee Bucks, and that's going to be a hell of a series if it happens. Playoff Jimmy was amazing last time, and it could really go either way. If he upsets it again, Milwaukee's going to have to look at their team and see what they've got to change, because they can't let one player rupture their playoff hopes every single year. But on the side of the Miami Heat, they lost a few pieces, gained a few pieces. They're looking good, but you're relying on playoff Jimmy. And when it came down to the last shots in the finals, he wasn't consistent. Even in the Boston series, he relied on other people. Yes, Tyler Hero being healthy will help them, but will he be able to help him to another finals appearance? And I say no. Playoff Jimmy is amazing, but he wasn't consistent, and you had amazing step-ups from people like Max Strus and Martin. Yes, it could happen again, but personally, I don't think lightning will strike twice. Now you've got the Pacers. This team is great. We saw them perform really well in the in-season tournament. Now they've added Pascal Siakam, which is a big step up, an amazing spot in the power forward position. But all we've got to ask, is this a playoff team? Do they perform well? Because they've got the firepower to do well, but when it comes to a playoff series versus the Bucks or the Celtics, will they do well? And will they be able to beat them in a 7-game series? They had a big feud against the Bucks, and that would be an amazing series, but will they win it? And I don't really believe in them yet. Yes, they could be an amazing playoff team. Tyrese Halliburton's a great leader. Pascal Siakam has playoff experience winning a finals with the Raptors. And Miles Turner has always been quite consistent as a center, and he has played in the playoffs before. And I do think they could do it, but yet again, it comes under the question, do they beat Boston in the 7-game series? And you can argue yes, but I personally think no. Then you have the Knicks. They were really good in the regular season. Jalen Brunson has looked even better from his first season in New York, but will they stay consistent? OG Anunoby and Julius Randle coming back, and when they come back, could be a big if for this team. If they come back, they have real potential. But if they're missing 2 of their primary players, it could get rocky. They're struggling to get the wins they need to get a higher seed to finish out the season. And if they don't get those 2 players back come playoff time, I just say it's wraps. They need those 2 players to have a chance against the good teams out east, which there are tons of them, and that's why I just don't have faith in them. Yet, if they get the injuries back, they're one of the most deep teams in the East, and they've got so much potential with all the young guys, 2 amazing centers, Julius Randle, OG Anunoby, a great perimeter defender, along with Hart and DiVincenzo, and one of the best point guards in the league in Jalen Brunson. That's a finals-worthy roster when you think about it. And if they come to play against those big teams, I think they could do it. Then you've got the Magic. I'm sorry, Magic fans. I love your team, but you're too young now. You're a great regular season team, but are you a postseason team? And just the team they have surrounded, I don't think it is. If they translate to the playoffs, they've got a chance, but they still got to play a really talented team in probably going to end up being New York. And if they beat them, that would probably end up being an upset. Yes, they've got a good team in 3 years after they've grown. They've got great players, but will it translate now? They've got Suggs, they've got Franz Wagner, Anthony Black maybe in a few years, and more importantly, Paolo Banchero. Will it be enough this year? No. Will it be enough in a few years? Possibly. Then you have Cleveland. Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, and an amazing supporting cast around them. You've got potential and you've got good cards on the table, but will it translate? Yet again, this is a young team we haven't seen yet, and a lot of these teams are young, and they 100% could do it, but will they have the potential to translate in a playoff setting? I think they definitely have a chance. I love the role players they have in Dean Wade, Isaac Okoro, and Max Strus, and they could all easily be big contributors in big games. And we saw this with the Miami Heat. Nobody called it, but they've got a similar roster in role players that we love to see and can be big contributors in big games. Could they do it? Yes. Will they do it? We'll see. Then you've got the Bucks, the most dominant player in the NBA in Giannis Antetokounmpo, Damian Lillard, who is one of the best clutch players, and a great supporting cast with Malik Beasley, Chris Middleton, and Brook Lopez. They've got a great team, but the simple question is, are they better than Boston, and will they win in a 7-game series? It could go either way, and this series, when it comes, which is likely, maybe in the Eastern Conference Finals or even in the semi-finals, this will be insane, and I would love to see the outcome. Yes, Boston are favoured, but obviously the Bucks have a chance. Dame could steal a game all by himself. Giannis can get a 50-10 game in any closeout game, and we saw that in the finals versus the Phoenix Suns in Game 6. They have the potential to beat anybody in the NBA, and they can do it, but will they? Because Boston is such an amazing team and such a deep team, and it will be an amazing series when it comes. And finally, I have the Boston Celtics. They're one of the deepest teams in the NBA, if not the deepest. They've got 10 players who can perform in a playoff game and put up big numbers and big contributors, and they're probably the favourite to win it this year. But the thing is, they've got a lot of obstacles in their way. They've got teams like Bucks, and when they do make it to the finals, they've got Nuggets or Clippers, who are two teams that could definitely beat them. And we've seen this two players in the playoffs before, in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and we haven't seen it succeed yet. Yes, they've added a lot of good pieces, which will make it more likely, but Jason Tatum hasn't had a big success in the playoffs yet, and I definitely think this year could be the year. And that's all I have for today. So thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed the longer form of content, me talking more in depth about the teams and how I think they'll go in the playoffs, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Tell me who you think's going to win the championship in the comments down below, and have a nice day.